Okay, for Wednesday, rocket stoves due today. Acts 22. Acts 22. So where we left is Paul was going to address the crowd that was about ready to beat him to death, right? And the commander gives him permission to turn around and to talk to the crowd, and he talks to them in Aramaic. That would have been, I know you might say, well, shouldn't he talk to them in Hebrew? Yeah, that is the Jewish way of speaking, but it's more how they write. Aramaic would have been the one that the Jews spoke together. Greek would be the language everyone knew, is the international language of the day, but Aramaic would have been kind of like, I'm just talking to you guys now. He made it personal. And it says they all got quiet. He identifies himself as Saul from Tarsus in the area of Cilicia. And he says, hey, I was just as zealous or as jacked about putting an end to this thing called the way, which would be Christianity. Just as much as you guys were, I beat him up, I persecuted him until I was going to Damascus. And then this Jesus blinded me and is telling me, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Ananias comes and takes away my blindness, and then I go back to Jerusalem, and you guys are kind of angry at me there, so I take off to Tarsus for a while to lay low. I was there when Stephen was being martyred. I guarded everybody's cloaks when that happened. And then the part that really got them all, jazzed up again to beat him up was at the end when he says, then the Lord said to me, go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles. And the Jews lost it after that. They can't handle that. That this promise of a Savior, this promise was now being given to the Gentiles too, that we are being grafted in. And that was hard for them to take. So anyway, they say, rid him from the earth, get rid of him. And they start throwing their cloaks and flinging dust in the air. I guess that was another way of saying they're super ticked off. Anyway, they have him all stretched out and they're going to beat him. Now, earlier when Paul was in Philippi, he let them beat him, and then he revealed he was a Roman citizen later on. I think maybe Paul's getting a little older and maybe kind of getting sick of getting beat, because they're about ready to beat him. He goes, hey, is it legal for you guys to do this to a Roman citizen? And they're like, I'm a Roman citizen that wasn't found guilty. I don't think you guys can do this. And then when the centurion heard this, he goes and reports it to the commander up above him. And he comes over and he says, are you really a Roman citizen? He's like, yeah. And the commander goes, I had to pay a big price for my citizenship. This is a big deal. What kind of citizen are you? Are you just kind of a fringe one? And Paul says, I was born one. It would be like, let's say the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and some friend comes up to you and says, yeah, my family moved here like 5 years ago, so I've been a Seahawks fan for 5 years. I'm pretty jacked that the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And you get to say, I was born a Seahawks fan. It's just kind of a different level of depth. And for him to say I was born one, then that commander's like, oh no, we really did something wrong. Anyway, in fact, they couldn't have even actually put him in chains. That was wrong too. Then he's going to appear before the Sanhedrin, and that'll be in chapter 23. But right at the end of 22, it says, the next day, since the commander wanted to find out exactly why Paul was being accused by the Jews, he released him and ordered the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin to assemble. Then he brought Paul and had him stand before them. So released means he's out of chains, but he's still in sort of the guard of, and that'll be key here, still underneath the guardianship of this commander. If he weren't, he'd be ripped apart. So it's actually a good thing that Paul sticks with him. Anyway, we'll go on to Acts 23 next. Oh, before I do, I'm going to do this. I am going to talk about the notes. The crowds, I'm on Acts 21, 27 to 36. The crowd started beating up Paul because they felt he had been telling others it was okay to disobey the law. The Roman commander broke it up and arrested Paul. Acts 21, 37 through 22, verse 21. Paul addresses the people, gives them a review of his conversion to Christianity. He tells them God sent him to bring the good news to the Gentiles. And then Acts 22, verse 22 through 29, Paul plays the citizen card. That's the way I describe it. Amidst the Roman flogging, he deserves a fair trial. We'll stop right there.